Hi, I am Nogi. Today I will interview Solara, the world-famous 11/11 visionary, regarding the closing 11/11 doorway ceremonies. Now it has changed the name to 11/11 AN AMUA, taking place in Peru. I am sure her messages will inspire many people, and I am strongly hoping that many people will know the true meaning of this very special event in November this year. So welcome, Solara. How are you?
Hello, Nogi. Good to see you, always.
To see you too. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. So the first question, there will be the 11/11 AN AMUA ceremonies in Peru in November. Of course, I will go. I will be there. But what is the significance of this event?
Good question. I have to go back a little bit to answer it. What is the 11/11 doorway? And back in January 11th and 12th, 1992, tens of thousands of people gathered together all over the world as some as individuals, some in huge groups. There were groups for example, in Brazil and Mexico that had 2,000, 3,000 people in them. They were held all over the world, and we activated the doorway of the 11/11. We opened it, and the doorway of the 11/11 is the bridge between two spirals of evolution. It's the bridge between duality and oneness. And up until then, the evolutionary spiral of duality was very separate from the evolutionary spiral of oneness. And what we did in our ceremonies is we took those two very different and very far away evolutionary spirals, and we created a zone of overlap between them. And then for the last 32 years, we've been passing through that zone of overlap, stepping out of duality, stepping deeper into oneness. And originally, the 11/11 doorway was supposed to close on November 11th, 2011, but we hadn't even finished all the activations of it. So, and I also realized that people needed more time. It's a big shift, changing reality systems. Maybe some can, but it's not just usually something you do in 5 minutes or 5 years. It's really walking out of everything that we knew before and stepping into a whole different evolutionary cycle with totally different experiences. So obviously in 2011, we weren't ready to close the 11/11 doorway. Nobody wanted it to be closed because nobody felt they were ready, and they weren't, we weren't. So, but finally it became really obvious last year that now we are reached a point where the 11/11 doorway has to close. And this is because old doors, even magnificent old doors that we love, that we can see have great benefit for us, they eventually reach a point where they have to close because there are new doorways behind them. There are many wondrous new energies that cannot be seen or accessed until the old doorway is closed. So that's why we're going to close it this year, and it feels really appropriate timing. We're in a very interesting time on planet Earth. It's not just when we were little, we were brought up to say, oh, this is real, this is reality, get real, get grounded. This is kind of the parameters of our playing field, or what we can base our existence on. And then as we evolved and became more aware, we saw that there were other realities. There were invisible realities. And we started exploring those and vaster realities. And as we did that, we saw that the old reality of duality that was presented to us as this is what there is, there were many realities far more real, far more magnificent, far more new and fresh. that also existed. And it's like parallel realities, but it's not. Parallel realities are more on kind of a equal trajectory or equal size. And these were vaster realities. And then the world of duality became more like a nightmare. And this world situation, as the old systems shatter, and as the forces that were trying to maintain control over humanity got more desperate and really pulled out more massive levels of manipulation and tried to maintain their control over humanity, you also found many people who had awakened were starting to pull the threads of their beings out of the tapestry of duality and just said, I don't choose to live in duality anymore. And so as each one of us pulled our thread out of that tapestry, what happened to the tapestry? That really tight weaving of duality that held it together started getting looser. The tight patterns in it, something you might have had a dark red rose full of thorns in the tapestry of duality, and suddenly it loosened and it loosened, and it became a giraffe. And you go, a giraffe? That's impossible. And so duality couldn't hold itself together. And also it's important for us to realize that we, humanity, we have been the food source to keep duality alive. As much as we'd like it to be gone, we're feeding it by believing in it, by feeling that, oh, this is the only reality, or this is the predominant reality. It's not. It never was. It's a superimposed, illusory, false reality. And so the more of us that started seeing that and just said, I'm not going to feed duality anymore. The game is over. And then then duality was saying, oh, I'm losing my food supply. And so let's bring out fear. Let's create world events. Let's create pandemics. Let's create all these things let's create more wars. Let's create more situations to pull people. Oh, they're back in fear. Good. Now we got our food again. But still, even though that's happening really strongly all over the world, there's many of us, more of us all the time, who just say, look, the game is over. We don't play that game of duality anymore. And it's not just giving up the bad things, the obvious bad things. Okay, I'm not going to go fight in a war. We know that's bad. That's easy to be against war. How else do we play duality in our lives? Are we being honest and real and true all the time? Or do we still play those little games? Are we still not express our true feelings? Do we still not express our knowingness and share it with others? Do we still keep ourselves small and disempowered? These are all ways that we're still playing the game. And of course we want the game to be over out there. It's easy to look at the world and say, oh, that's bad. That game is over. That game is over. What about this game? Our internal game has to be over. And that's how we become free from duality. And that's how we gain access to these eternal, timeless, true worlds. And so many of us have been doing that the last few years. And we've been merging our timeless, true selves with our physical selves. It's no longer, oh, now I'm being physical. I'm washing the dishes. I'm driving my car. I'm going to work. And, oh, now I'm being spiritual. I'll light the incense. I'll meditate. I'll go away out of the world. We bring the timeless true worlds into the here and now. We bring the physical and we merge them together. And that's how we become timeless true ones. So as we've been doing this for several years now, it's the perfect time that the doorway of 1111 to close. It served its purpose. Yes, we could always do more. We can always do more healing. We can always eat a little bit more delicious food, but there's a certain time to go, enough is enough. some of us are already at the state where we can feel the beyond, what's beyond the 1111 doorway. We can't see it, I can't describe it, but I can feel it. And it feels amazing and so clean and true and fresh. But we can just sit on this side and feel it until we actually close the 1111 doorway. Sorry, long answer.
Oh, yes, sure.
Back at the first 1111 ceremony in 1992, we had two, at the 1111 activations, we always have two or one master cylinder point, which is where the energies first come into the planet and then they spread out from there all over the world. And for the first one, we had two. One was in New Zealand, South Island, with 100 people. The other one was at the Great Pyramids, at the base of the pyramid of my, Menkaure, my husband, came to the rescue. I always blank out on that. I don't know why. And our ceremonies were 38 hours long because we were aligning with all the time zones all over the world as those anchor groups activated. And in Egypt, there were 500 of us. And every hour, we sang a song written by this musician named Matisha, and it's called The Family of An. And nobody knew anything. Most of the people had never heard of An or anything then. And we had people from 38 countries, and we sang that song every hour. And even people that didn't know English, they were going, blah, 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 family of An, and we were all. And so what we were doing at that first, while we were opening the 1111 doorway, we were planting the seeds of An into the earth. And An represents the new reality. It's the sun and the moon as one being. And An was first in this planet, like in ancient times. It was, An was a god of ancient Egypt. An was in the Druids. An was brought forth the Incas, the lineage of the Incas. An was in many, in China and near Liang, that there's a strong An lineage. I'm sure in Japan has one too. A strong anchor, you just have to look back far enough. And often they made like ceramics, sun and moon as one being. And you can find it if you go looking for the clues of An. So what we were doing is planting the seeds for An to return to this planet, but on a new level. And this activation, or this series of ceremonies in November, as we close the 1111 doorway, can only be done by the family of An, and that they're the ones that we planted the seeds for. And so it's funny for somebody like me, who was at the first one planting the seeds, and then ones like you who came up from the seeds. It's just perfect.
Here's another question about dragons. In January, we held the Awakening of White Dragon ceremonies in Japan at Mount Fuji and also in Amano Hashidati. And is there a connection between this dragon activation and 1111 AN AMUA?
Oh, good question. Good. Yes, of course. It's very interesting. These ceremonies that we're doing in November, they have to be done by the family of An. And there's one ceremony that has to be done by the elders of An, which is the highest level that can still incarnate on the planet. Beyond that, you can't physically incarnate. Somehow we have to embody that. But the other component of our, there's the 1111 starry family. They're the people that did the 1111 activations for over 20 years. And some of them are coming. And some of them don't know anything about An. They were planting the seeds, but the seeds didn't come up in them because a lot of them are older and like first wave and stuff. Then we have the family of An. Then we have the white dragon. And the white dragon is always, it's like a wild card. You know, the wild dragon isn't subject to any rules or behaviors or regulations. The white dragon has total freedom to do what it knows to be true. And the white dragon is so pure and so real, with such integrity of being. And it comes in and does things that we wouldn't know how to do, we wouldn't be capable of doing. And for the white dragon, it's just easy. It's light. It does everything with lightness, even very strong, heavy things. And we're very fortunate that the white dragon is also woven into this. So it's, again, the 1111 story family, the family of An, the white dragon. These are the key components. We've, the 1111 doorway's never been closed before. And to close it, okay, we have the two evolutionary spirals that we overlapped in 1992. You'd think, oh, it's easy, we just loosen them and they go separate. But it doesn't happen that way. What they do instead is they not just merge, it's not a merger like that. It's more like coming together in a different way that creates something that's never been here before. And as that gets created, then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we can access what's beyond. I don't know how we physically do that, but it will come by our ceremonies. Going to Japan and having those beautiful, exquisite ceremonies. And the white dragon came in so beautifully and lovingly and with such power and strength and compassion, and of course love, massive love, was a huge blessing. And it was something that was really timely and needed. And ever since then, the white dragon sightings all over the world are so strong. I mean, people see them in so many countries, and they're more obvious. Whenever I see a white dragon here, often it's on times where I'm tired or too much work or whatever. And then I go outside, look up at the sky, and there it is, or several, really playful and really beautiful. And they just say, all is well, it's okay. But the white dragon is the supreme dragon. So it's not just the white dragon. The white dragon is going to activate all the dragons of the elements and merge them together. The white dragon is probably the most powerful agent of transformation that is on this planet that I know of, at least right now.
Could you elaborate on that different colors of the dragons and the elements that they govern, such as earth, water, fire, and wind?
Yeah. Well, the earth is green, sometimes brown, because the green is the female earth color and brown is the masculine earth color. And then we have the water dragon, of course, is blue. And then we have the fire dragon, which is red, has to be red. And then we have the air dragon, which is yellow. We've done several of the 1111 activations beginning, let's see, I think at the fourth gate in 1999 in Tahiti. We had an all-night ceremony. And in the morning, the first light, everybody always used to wear all white for the 1111 activations. And then they'd have a sarang, of the color of their element off the corner. And at the end of the dance, after all the dragons, each element would create their dance. And then they all danced their dance when the first light came up, right on the sandy beach of this beautiful lagoon. And then at the end of the dance, they take off their sarongs and they're all in white. And so that all really signifies the white dragon. And that was the first time we did it. And then a few activations later, we decided to have dragons of the elements. So we choose one or two dragons of each element, and they would lead their element. But first they'd create their dance together, and then by the second 8th gate activation at Lake Titicaca on the island of the moon in 2009, it was beautiful. Each element, their birthed their dragons. And so like the two earth dragons were these two first wave ancient beings, not in years in this life, but really you could tell ancient wise beings. And they were mountains. And their element was in a circle around them. And then they were like those sleeping giant mountains. You never know, is that a mountain? Or is that a giant who just is taking a rest? And so they were there, and their element was all around them, the earth, and then they brought them to life, and then they stood up, and then they all began their dance. And the fire dragons were two like sphinxes that were sitting in the middle of their circle facing each other, like, with paws out. I mean, I was the only person not in the dance. I never danced that dance. And because somebody has to be outside watching, so I get to see it, and it's incredible. And we haven't done it for many years. We've never even done it at the Heart of An. But this time, at the 11/11 AN AMUA ceremonies, we're going to dance the dance of the elements. But I think this time we're all going to be dragons. We've never done that.
So you mentioned in the last interview that when the dragons truly awaken, the dragon wind will blow and the earth will shed its own skin. And those who chose to live in the duality will be transported to another planet, another world. And does this have anything to do with the future polar shift?
Yes, and when I first got that information years ago, I was kind of shocked, and I thought, oh, how can that be? But it still rings true to me. I look at it periodically and say, does that still feel true? And it does. And that doesn't mean that it might happen in a different way. Of course it could. But what is already happening now is we have the reality of duality, which is falling apart. As I say, more and more threads are coming out of the tapestry of duality. So it's not a strong, this is all there is, like it used to be when we were little. So we have that going on. Then we have new reality of An coming in and becoming more and more visible, more and more tangible. More people can see it and experience it and feel it. It's not just a few. And it's not just at special times when I've been good and I'm wearing clean clothes and I'm meditating. It's here all the time, doing the most practical, down-to-earth things. It's part of seeing the unseen. When you look all around you, and it's not dreams and visions, it's seeing more of what's really here in the physical here and now, which has been here all along, only we couldn't see it. And as more of us see it, and as more of us resonate with that, with the new reality within us, it becomes more visible and becomes more real, until for many of us, that is more real than the old crumbling duality. The old crumbling duality holds very little interest anymore. Like all the things I used to enjoy doing, most of them I'm not at all interested in doing anymore. So the planet Earth shedding its skin, that's already happening. As you see, the duality world is becoming more invisible to the people who are merging, who are timeless true ones, merging their timeless true selves into their physical being. And even you go out here in the world or where you live and you're doing little practical errands and nothing exciting, and sometimes things you don't really want to do, but you do it as a timeless true one, and it's a whole different experience. There's so much love between the people on the street, the neighbors, the farmers, the people in the shops, all of this. And there's so much respect and there's so much mutual support and honoring. And not honoring one person because they have more money or they're in a higher position or something, just because we're real and true. It's just true one to true one. So all of that changes. And then all of the false world, it's like they don't even see us and we don't see them. and we don't do the same things or go to the same places. So what I said years ago is sometimes it would be like a husband and wife, and one is really wants to stay in duality, which is okay. If you need more time in duality, that's fine. But the other one has really become a timeless true one and realizes duality is not real and doesn't live there anymore. But they're still together. And gradually over time, they become more invisible to each other. Not only outwardly, like they eat different foods, they have different activities, maybe different friends, different interests, but less to talk about with each other. And then one night, they go to sleep in the same bed, and in the morning, the man wakes up and he's alone. And the woman wakes up, same bed, and she's alone. And it's that those worlds becoming invisible. It's a matter of resonance. And what I was told those years ago is that at some point when it was ready for that shift, and it might be more than a pole shift, it's a whole shift of reality systems, which maybe not all pole shifts are, is that a mighty dragon wind comes. And I've experienced one once, years ago, in Virginia. And there was this just very unusual wind that came. I lived out in the countryside, and it was so exciting. I went outside and I was singing to it, and it was, ooh, and you could see the dragons of the air just dancing around in the sky, and this big wind, and it felt so cleansing. It wasn't like some winds are not friendly winds, and you don't want to go outside, you want to stay inside. This was the one you wanted to go out and welcome and embrace. And I said, it's a dragon wind. And I got so excited. And I think it was just a taste to let me know what a dragon wind was. There's another planet they've discovered just recently, other planets that are Earth size, that are not too far away. They're not in our solar system, but they're not so far away. And I said, oh, one of those is the one who volunteered to take the people that still want to stay in duality. And so when the dragon wind comes, it's like planet Earth sheds its skin, which is the duality layer, and it goes and wraps around that other planet. And that's when we wake up. And all this, we have to heal the pollution and everything. We don't. It's in that layer of illusory layer. It's like the part of us that gets sick and old, and all of that that's not our timeless true self. That's the physical part, or the duality-based part. And it's to get yourself not feeding that, not living there anymore. You had one question you sent me about what happens in 2025, but for 2025, when I look at that year, I can't feel it at all. It feels very white, very blank, like a blank canvas. Anything is possible. And it really depends between what we do now and the end of the year, especially through these ceremonies, is going to determine what we're going to experience next year. If you want more duality, you'll get more duality and an intense duality. But if you don't want more duality, if the game is over and you give yourself permission to fully embody your timeless true self, you're going to have a whole different set of experiences. That's what I want. That's why I've been doing all these ceremonies for so many years.
That's it for today.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Solara.
Oh, thank you always, Nogi.